Hey, this is Eric, and in this video we'll be taking a look at a brand new feature for Google Classroom called Practice Sets. We all know the phrase, practice makes perfect, but that's not actually true. A better way to say it would be practice makes permanent. If a student practices incorrectly, they will reinforce the wrong procedures or information. To help with this, Google has created a brand new feature for Google Classroom called Practice Sets, which uses artificial intelligence to provide guided support, feedback, and correction for students when working through assessment questions. Let's take a look at this awesome new tool. First, let's explore the teacher experience. To get started, teachers can create and assign practice sets in Google Classroom just like making an assignment. With practice sets, educators are able to use content they already have or come up with brand new questions from scratch to build an assessment activity. Google's artificial intelligence then scans the questions and determines the learning skills being addressed and finds helpful hints and resources to go along with each question in case the student needs assistance. The questions can include multiple choice or short answer to start with, and for the questions covering math content, the students can use a powerful built-in math keyboard to enter their answers. Now let's take a look at this from the student's point of view. The students will access a practice set from their Google Classroom just like a regular assignment. As the student works through the questions, Google's powerful auto-grading feature lets them know if they are correct or provides hints if they are struggling. As needed, the students can watch videos and read concept cards for the skill in question, all surfaced by Google's AI. Finally, the students are given plenty of digital space to show their work and demonstrate their understanding for their teachers. Lastly, let's examine the grading experience. Google Classroom provides an enhanced grading view for the practice sets, showing class performance and every attempt made by every student. The automated insights show class-wide trends so teachers can make adjustments in instruction to address the struggling students and concepts. Practice sets do what technology does best. Give quick, actionable insights into student comprehension so teachers can do what they do best, intervening personally in the lives of their struggling students. To learn even more about the new practice sets, I have the privilege of sitting down with Taryn Sullivan from the Practice Sets team at Google to learn more about this new tool. So I'm excited today to be joined by Taryn Sullivan from Google to chat about a brand new tool for educators called Practice Sets. Let's start off though first, Taryn, with giving you a chance to introduce yourself and say what you do there at Google.
Sure. Hi, and thanks for having me. I'm a product manager on the Google for Education team working on new assistive learning technologies. And Practice Sets is a new feature launching within Google Classroom to help create interactive assignments that give students this real-time feedback and hints when they get stuck.
Well, that is fantastic. Yes. So practice sets is the new feature that is going to be rolling out here. Tell us a little bit about what practice sets is and how it works. Love to hear more about it.
Yeah, so it will launch. We're launching a beta this year in Google Classroom, and it'll be available for all customers that have the teaching and learning SKU as well as EDU Plus. So, but we invite everyone that's interested to sign up on our beta interest form so we can be in touch about more details as we can share more. But Practice Sets is a way for teachers to use their existing content that they have and be able to create more interactive assignments with that. So then when they're assigned through Google Classroom, students open it right from in Classroom and can complete this practice assignment. Along the way, they get encouragement and feedback in the form of fun confetti and little emojis and fun things to keep them excited and encouraged. And they get that immediate feedback, whether a problem is right or wrong. And then if they get stuck, there's resources and hints that automatically get attached to the practice set to help them right in that moment. Because we all know that teachers don't have the time to be there, even in the same classroom with 25 students, nonetheless, while they're also working from home.
Absolutely. Now, this is sounding to me somewhat similar to like Google Forms. I'm thinking of a tool that we use many times to have students practice content, answer questions, get feedback from there. Help me understand, how is this different than a teacher using Google Forms to provide an assessment to students?
Yeah, it's such a great question and one we get asked often. So I was actually on the Google Forms team for just a hot minute, and there are tons of educators that are using the form and form quizzes tools, which are fabulous. But I think the key difference is Practice Sets it basically builds on all of our learnings from Google Form and form quizzes, but it's built specifically to be an education specific practice set type tool, right? So within Forms, for instance, there's no way to, it can't automatically identify a learning skill to match to it so that a teacher could go find that problem easier in the future to reuse it. And that's going to be available in Practice Sets. Being able to have more assistive learning technologies around auto grading. So more robust ways to say, hey, if the answer is 0.5, 1/2 is also going to be accepted. And that's a great new feature within Practice Sets. I think the other key difference is the remediation support and hints and resources that we're attaching, that Practice Sets will attach to the assignment. So a teacher can, as soon as they bring in a problem, the learning skill will be recommended. And if they turn that on and attach it, then they can preview that practice set that the student will see. And it'll have hints and resources that will come up to help them, some videos, concept cards, text explainers as well. And that really helps the student right in the moment. So those are the kind of very education specific technologies that we're integrating into Practice Sets, which really makes it a pretty big difference between forms.
That makes a lot of sense. And Forms, we've already stretched it pretty far for what it does. It was originally designed as a survey tool, a questionnaire tool, and for years we were finding ways to use things like Flubaroo or other add-ons to use it for assessments, and then we got quizzes built into it. But that does make sense to have a tool that is specifically focused on the educational aspect of helping students practice these specific skills and getting the feedback. Now, as you're mentioning about the feedback the students are getting, the hints that they are getting, makes me think of another tool that I know Google has under their umbrella, which is the Socratic mobile app. A couple of years back, I know Google purchased Socratic, brought it in under their umbrella, and that's a mobile app where a student can use their phone to take a picture of a math problem or a page out of their science textbook. And it goes out and using artificial intelligence, it looks for videos that help support that. It looks for websites that go into that content. This is kind of reminding me a little bit of that. So when Practice Sets is giving hints to students or providing them with additional resources, is there AI in the background here? Is that what's happening here? Some machine learning or some AI that is surfacing these support materials?
So yes, the same underlying assistive learning technology has been used for Socratic, is being employed with Practice Sets. What's interesting here is that the framing is just very different. So with Socratic, it's a consumer app. It's directly for students. It was built with that in mind. And Practice Sets has been built as part of Google Classroom with the teacher at the helm. So the teacher has the full control as to what they want to show, but what's suggested and what's recommended for them to be able to turn on comes from similar types of technology.
Well, that's fantastic. And what I love about that is it's the technology coming alongside and helping teachers. We talk about, the power of technology and AI, and it's already all around us. But how's it going to affect the classroom? And this is a wonderful way for it to do that. Like you said, there's one of you and 25 of the students. Being able to have this assistant to be able to help you with the resources to help support the students, that's fantastic. Now, let's say I'm a teacher and I'm going to create one of these practice sets. At the moment, I understand that this is, at the moment, at least tied to Google Classroom. So I will be inside a Google Classroom when I create one of these. What are the different methods that I can use to get the content into the practice set? Is this something that I can create from scratch? Is it something that I can use already exist? Maybe I have a worksheet that I have been using in the past. How can I get content into this new app, this new tool?
Yeah. Yeah, so I want to first say that our overall vision for practice sets is that teachers could use any of the content that they already own and are able to use in this way, because we know that teachers have put a lot of time into building their own content, really curating it. But the biggest need we hear from teachers is that every class is different. We need to make this more personal. I need to be able to edit and move this around, or I didn't get to the part in the lesson that, this question actually relates to, so take it out for today and maybe I'll add it back tomorrow. It's all of that kind of work that is sort of the hidden, work that teachers do, but is really time consuming. And so when we heard that, we said, okay, how do we create a platform that will enable them to bring any kind of content in the future? But we got to start somewhere. And so we started first, obviously from our learnings of Google Forms and Google Form quizzes. Teachers want to be able to create really quickly from scratch. And so we're going to have that functionality at launch. I think the other piece is, to your point, they have content that's really hard to edit and move around in PDFs. And so they'll be able to bring some of that in. And we're working on how do we make that editable and digitize that in a way that's really useful for teachers. So the vision long term is for anything. In the short term, yeah, you'll be able to create content from scratch, as well as bring in PDF or image type content
That's
too.
fantastic. That's wonderful. And to begin with, what sort of question types are we looking at? Is it multiple choice, fill in the blank? Do we have certain question types to begin with at launch?
Such a great question. I get it so much. So we're starting with some basic types, right? Like multiple choice, check boxes, short answer. And I will say that our short answer, what's going to be fabulous is we've integrated a math keyboard and the ability to even read math expressions that are written with ink. So yes, there's quite a robust set of sort of functionality with that, right? So the fact that it is short answer, but can be auto graded, I think is the key. And then we'll have long answer, which will be manually graded by a teacher.
I'm really excited to see this. I love you mentioning about the support for mathematics. I was a middle school math teacher. This is my 30th year in education, but my first 7 years, I was a middle school math teacher. And a lot of times I do share about tools that we have out there to help bridge that gap when we're trying to do things mathematical on a computer. And I'm so glad to hear that that's something you guys have been thinking about, and have built that right into the system. I can be excited to see that when that launches.
And I will say math was my favorite subject, but ended up through high school being something that I struggled with. And so, and it's a lot of folks on our team are very passionate about how do you bring a math experience in a digital realm that is really effective for being able to see students work and they're thinking as they work through it. And can we then assist that student as they're working in the future to identify where those common misconceptions are or where they made a mistake so they don't get through an entire set of work and practice and realize they practiced wrong. Because there's nothing worse than actually instilling those bad practices over and over. And that's why we're kind of excited about that ability to give them immediate feedback in the moment.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, what's the phrase? We say practice makes perfect, but we say, no. It's not that practice makes perfect. It's that practice makes permanent. And so it's important that what we're doing is giving that timely feedback to correct any incorrect practices so that we can get the students reinforcing the proper procedures. So that's great. Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. So let's say the students do complete a practice set. And as they go through, like you said, they're getting feedback as well. You mentioned some of those things that the students might be seeing, whether it's positive feedback with confetti, excited to see that, or if it's additional resources. Sounds like they might be seeing, videos or blogs, websites, some resources to help them if they need to get back on track. Is that correct?
Yes. So, we've also found in our early piloting that sometimes students don't want to try and get it wrong first. They're actually stuck to even figure out how to start. And so we wanted resources to be readily available at any time so they can choose when they want that support.
Okay.
And that'll come in the form of like concept cards that kind of have examples explained out on them of the skill, as well as videos. And our team's actually able, like soon we'll be able to even get a part of a video that goes directly to that skill and that concept, or to write out an example, which tend to be, as we're learning from educators, some of the most effective ways to close that gap quickly for students.
And again, the teacher themselves is not needing to populate this content, correct? This is content that is getting surfaced through the tool itself.
Yeah, so in the content creation process, the teacher will be able to try it as a student and see that experience. And then, but it's all like recommended and attached automatically, so they don't have to go out and find it, right? It
What a
helps
time saver. Oh my
curate
gosh.
for them. Yeah.
Wonderful. So when it's all said and done and the students complete it, sounds like the teachers are going to get some good feedback themselves as well from this. What sort of insights is a teacher going to be able to see in their practice sets dashboard as students complete these?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've gotten such great feedback on from teachers in the early pilot was this sort of dashboard that we've created. So it'll show the performance for every student for every single problem in a nice grid. We heard from teachers they often pull in all this data into sheets, and then they color code it and they do that analysis themselves, which is, again, if we can just save that time and put it in a familiar format, that's what we want to do. We just want to empower them to do their great work. So being able to identify, oh, wow, question 3, everyone struggled on, right? So we also have automated sort of analysis like that that'll pop up in a short link. They can click and view everyone's problem 3. And then as they scan through it, they not only can see the correct answers and the incorrect answers, but they can see every attempt that the student made alongside the student work, if they chose to show it, for each problem. And so just being able to like scroll down and scan that, you can quickly identify, oh, wow, everyone in the class was using that other strategy. Maybe we need to review it again, or introduce another one if that's not clicking, right? So they can identify those gaps quickly and be able to inform their teaching plan for the next day.
That's fantastic. If there is a person who loves spreadsheets, is there still an option to do an export at the moment to spreadsheets, or at the moment is it still staying self-contained within that dashboard for now?
Yeah, as a feature in Classroom, we're really trying to, build the best right in there. But we are about collaboration tools and ways to improve efficiency. So we invite that feedback directly. If there's a need to export it to a sheet, please tell us why, because we'd love to make that easy for you to do, no matter what you want to do with it.
And that is always an important point to remind people, is that, the little question mark button down in the bottom corner of Google Classroom where you can submit feedback, it is not there just to placate folks and make them feel like, they've been able to vent. It is actually listened to. Anything people submit through there, the Google team does take very seriously and reads through those and prioritizes those suggestions. So it's always, we really appreciate so much that you guys listen to what educators need. With that in mind, I guess, going forward, I know at launch, sounds like we've got an amazing tool, but do you, anything you can share about the future vision of practice sets and where you think this might be going beyond what we get at the initial launch?
So we're really excited about we're launching at beta, but we know it's just the start. It's early days. We need a lot more feedback. We're building and designing this alongside teachers. And so we really want them to help inform what the future holds. That being said, I think there's a big challenge within education to be able to understand where a student is at any given moment and how to best help them. That's what teachers do best. We just want to build the tools to enable it. So this idea of being able to have learning skills that then students' performance can be tracked against, I think, is a really powerful one. But we want to see what teachers need with that, what districts need, what type of visibility is helpful, as well as what's really working for the students. But long term, right, being able to use any type of content, really interesting future problem types. So one thing we really didn't talk about much, but this platform is built so that all modalities are equal citizens. So you could write with a stylus or with touch ink, for instance, or type with a keyboard, use a math keyboard, and in the future, much more, so that the idea of being able to drag and drop things or draw lines or shade in a part of a diagram or draw out a graph and actually plot your lines, that capability is what this is built on, like those types of capabilities to have that interaction. And so we're really excited about what the future holds, so that we can truly make like highly engaging and interactive tools, content creation tools for teachers.
So during the pilot that you've done, what is some of the interesting feedback that you have been receiving from teachers who have tried this out so far?
Yeah, so we had teachers use this with their own real content and assign it through Google Classroom. And it was so interesting to hear from teachers some things I just didn't expect. We had a teacher that said she assigned a paper set of practice to her students and then did the same thing through practice sets. And they noticed that the students were getting through a lot more of the questions on practice sets than on paper. And when she asked them, like, why is this the case, right? Like, why are you getting more through more? And they actually got more right with practice sets. And they said, well, I could see that I was getting it right. And so I felt really confident as I was going through it to just keep using, doing the same thing. And I got this, these animojis and confetti and fun things that just made it feel, like I had the energy. And when I was on paper, I just got kind of bored and distracted and it just didn't feel as fun. And I just appreciate that as a mom of two young kids, when I watch them work on something that is really engaging and gives them that feedback, just how awesome that is. And when you watch teachers in the classroom, when they walk around and give that feedback, it's also really, that moves the needle. And so if we can kind of do that at scale for them, it's fun to unlock that potential.
Well, that's fantastic. It's tapping into all the things we've learned from gamification and motivation and positive feedback and correction. That's awesome. So glad to hear that they've had success with that so far.
The other one that was unexpected is a teacher told me that oftentimes in her class, just right there live in the class, a bunch of the students that are the high flyers will lift their hands and like want the teacher to come over and check and make sure that they got it right. She's like, so I have to walk over and spend time, confirming that they got it right. And then they have the assurance to move on. But it takes a lot of time away from the students that I really need to be helping through the problem. And so she said with practice sets, it was just so nice because it was quiet and they could keep going and they were energized and moving forward, but she could really spend that time with the students that needed it. And so that felt really good and was a bit unexpected from our end.
I love that, though. I mean, it goes back to the idea of the best use of technology. Let technology do what it does best so that we as teachers can do what we do best, so that we can interact personally with students and we can help encourage them. We can help those who need that personal touch, whereas the technology can take care of some of these other tasks for us. That's fantastic. I love that. If you would like to learn more about practice sets and express your interest in taking part in the practice sets beta, fill out the Google form located at goo.gle/practicesets-beta. And be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, connect with me on Twitter, and visit my website at controlaltachieve.com, where I share all of my EdTech resources, blog posts, projects, and more. Thanks so much. Take care.